Hello, today's video we're going to be talking about insider trading in United States and also in Canada. I'm going to show you a couple of companies based on my insider trading report. So let's go. So this is the insider trading report for United States on the last 3 months. We're focused on companies with insider trading activity in the last days. So we're going to be talking a little bit about this company, Transdigm. It's in the space defense. So before that, just look at the report here, some of the companies. We continue to see a lot of investments and banks with insider activity. So it's good to have an idea of what's going on, what insiders are investing during these days. So a lot of investments, financial banks. So just gonna quickly go here and come back. So Transdigm, it's a space defense, as I said. So big insider activity lately, including very recently. 3 unique buyers, around 137 million of insider buying activity, some selling as well, but as we expand here, we see most of the selling it's huge, right? It's just small. I don't know why it's been breaking down like this, but it's like a lot. The selling was during the pandemic, which is understandable. So after that, we see a lot of buying activity. So by the way, I'm not asking anybody or saying, suggesting to buy this company. If you decide, look for an entry point. The stock market is not easy at this point. Really tough times, even ahead, I'm guessing, but just as a heads up for a company like this, with a lot of insider activity, might be a good thing to look at. If we look at the company, Transdigm, so they sell pumps involved to commercial airplanes, also to military. So that's in the defense. That's a pretty interesting company and is part of the ITA ETF, the iShares US Airspace and Defense. We see here at the bottom all the companies and big ones involved. Transdigm is here, about 3.87% of the ETF. So I mentioned about this ETF in my last video. It's something that I'm looking at. Just the market right now is tough. I'm not sure if I'm buying or when. Gonna be looking at the cluster insider trading report now. Now it's focused on cluster, which means more than 2 buyers and nobody selling, like in the last 3 months. We're going to be looking at these 2 companies, 2 biotech, Accelerate Diagnostics and DarioHealth. So both related to COVID somehow, and that's why I'm bringing them. Okay, so I'm going to go through the report here quickly if you care about looking at the companies. A lot of bank and investments, as I mentioned in the previous report. So this is slightly different because we only have, it's a pretty good ones, I would say, theoretically, because there's no selling activity. So it's like huge. You see a lot of companies with quite a lot of insider buying activity and like a lot of unique buyers, which is really cluster insider. That's pretty good. So let's talk about a little bit these companies here. First, Accelerate Diagnostics, and they provide solutions for global challenge of antibiotic resistance and infections. So you see all the activities here, the insider buying activities. So pretty recent, and total about 13.5 million. It's quite a lot. So I'm gonna go through quickly here and see all of that. So let's move here to the company's website. So that's the relation with COVID-19. Accelerate and biotech, they joined the fight against COVID-19. They plan to supply this biotech MS Fast system and these biotech SARS test in North America, Europe, and Middle East. So again, I'm not saying or suggesting anybody to buy. If you decide, just do your own research, take a look at this company, a good entry point. So we come back to another company, my insider cluster report. It's called DarioHealth. So they have therapeutics in the research and development and sale of pharmaceutical products. So they offer monitoring device, mobile applications, and data service for diabetes management, self-test blood meters, like related to the blood. And you see all the insider activity, about $3 million. And pretty recent activity here. See here, May 7. So price has room, a little bit room to grow based on the 52-week high. Price is currently $8. There is a price target of 8.5, so just to be aware. So a lot of insider activity. Let's look at the company a little bit here. So Life Therapeutics for Better Life. That's DarioHealth. That's the company website. You can check it out if you want. So also in the stock tweets, you may have a look and see. There's some great articles. People talk a lot about these companies. It's good to have a faithful community. There are a lot of investors believing in the company. There's a nice post on stock tweets about this company. So they're in negotiation for large programs. Let's see here. 2 major companies selling to employers or pending agreement sign off. Providers, additional agreements in negotiation. Retailers, negotiating with 2 of the larger retailers. And now let's talk about insider trading selling activity. Insider trading selling, that's the bad part of insider trading. And I'm highlighting some large companies here, as I mentioned previously in my previous video. Delta Airlines, a lot of selling activity, and continue to do, because you see May 4th. So minus $263 million. Amazon is still doing May 6th. There's another transaction. It's a total about minus 40 million, almost minus $41 million of selling activity. Coca-Cola, a lot of as well. Fedex, this is a new one. Almost minus $19 million of selling. Just to keep an eye on Nike as well. With this, we see the stock market is not easy at this point. If these big companies, if insiders are selling, so heads up, we don't know what's happening. CytoDyn, that's a company involved with COVID-19. That's why I'm selecting here. And the price really jumped to almost $3. It may have jumped, actually did to more than $3, and we see insider selling recently. So it's a heads up. If they're selling, you know what you should do if you're investing on those. And that's now in Canada, insider trading selling. I'm just highlighting a few companies here, like Royal Bank of Canada, selling about $2 million, like insiders. Imax, another big one, for about $530,000. Sabina Gold and Silver. So it's good to mention a lot of gold and silver companies, precious miners. If they're selling, we know that the price may go up and down for gold and miners. BevCanna, that's cannabis. That's sad to see this happening. They continue to sell. So a lot of selling activity, recently. A lot of selling. That's really not a good sign. Really not a good sign. So I'm just talking here about how to trade these small caps, the ones I mentioned, the penny stocks or small caps. Like the way I'm doing, if I'm trading them, I'm not spending a lot of money, of course, proportionally to my account. I always look at insider trading activity, because if insiders are buying, it's a pretty good sign. Of course, look at balance sheet, debt, cash, revenue. A lot of these companies, or these small companies, they are not profitable, but you look at the debt, possibility of reverse splits and things like that may chase away investors. Company has a good community. StockTweet's a pretty good website to look at. Of course, look at the chart for a good entry point. RSI, SMA, and things like that. Price targets and analysts, what they're saying about the company. A lot of times you cannot trust these things, but it just adds up. Sometimes you cannot trust these things or them, but it just keeps adding, all of these things. Like I said, good entry point. Look at JIPs. A lot of biotechs, they're listed in the Nasdaq, and you have to be careful about ones with price that is less than $1, because they may do a reverse split at some point. Like I said, spend only a small portion of your account. Also look at institutions buying the stock, which could be a good sign. Debatable, of course, some people say not necessarily. And with all of that, stock market is still risky. We cannot avoid unknowns, pandemics, things like that. And what I've been doing, what I did this week, I've been mentioning about Petrobras. Pretty bullish on this company at these prices. And I've been trading since the company was around $5.80. I sold. I bought again this week. Not my best trade. I was looking. This was when I bought. That was Wednesday, I guess. Anyways, I was looking. I always notice a lot of these companies, the volume goes down during around noontime, Easter time. And I was looking at the price was coming down a little bit, and I bought. But I bought here, and the price went up a little bit, but in the afternoon it started to go down. I suspect there was an article from Zacks talking about the company, which is actually a good article, but I think it took some time for people to understand there was a good article talking about the company, how it's undervalued. But because of the oil situation, it can be risky. But in the end, in the next day, after the drop, the company started to go up again. I'm up a little bit. They have earnings next week. I have to decide what I'm going to do. The market is pretty tough at this time. I'm just being very careful. I suggest you do so. So that's it for the video. Please subscribe, please give a like, and I come back next time. Thank you so much. Have a good day.